Oh man, this is all professional. I'm not endorsing Saxby's, by the way, but
Yeah, all right. I'm jealous. We don't have those out here.
no. What do you have any other chicken place or anything?
They got churches, and there's a Cane's down in Honolulu.
Okay, all right. Church is not the same as Saxby's.
It's not. I do miss Zaxby's a little bit. Surprisingly, the food in Whiteman is better than the food in Honolulu. Believe it or
Oh,
not.
oh no. I don't know if some people will get offended by you saying. I've never been to Hawaii, so I don't know. I don't want to get in trouble.
If you're into like authentic Asian food, like that stuff's pretty good. But growing up in the Midwest, I've got a pretty boring palate, so I only go so deep into that stuff.
Gotcha. I hear you.
I miss Taqueria Havana over there in Warrensburg.
Oh, that's right. So I don't think I've tried that. There's that Mexican place in Nam Noster. Sometimes I go there for lunch. What is it? Jalisco?
Yeah, TJ's. Yeah,
TJ.
But Taqueria Havana is where it's at over there.
All right.
Miller and Son, the knob too, the barbecue.
That place is good. Yeah, we'll have to check that out at some point. But all right, well, this should be, this should be informative, I think, for a lot of us. We're here with Staff Sergeant Fenton, and I think a lot of us already know he was selected, the first airman selected for the brand new E-FLEP program. So that is amazing. And I know a lot of us are super proud of you, that you were selected for this program. And it's just one thing that had been in the works for a while. I know that there were previous chiefs that have been working this, and I know that they're proud to see this go through. But it's amazing to get to talk to you and kind of go over what the process looks like, and kind of learn a little bit about you, since we're going to be seeing you in the JAG Corps in the future as well. And also because you're also recently retrained into the paralegal field, so we'll just cover those few things. But if we can start by you just telling us a little bit about yourself.
Well, Staff Sergeant Brad Fenton, as you said. I started off in the Air Force at Whiteman Air Force Base as an aircraft electrical environmental technician. And then 2019, I crossed over to paralegal. And then I'm out here at Hickam in the military justice section.
Okay, nice. So where are you from?
I'm from Quincy, Illinois.
Okay. What do you say? Quincy, Illinois?
Yep, Quincy, Illinois.
Okay. All right. So then did you get your bachelor's degree before you joined the Air Force?
Yeah, so I went in to get my bachelor's right after high school. I got that at Western Illinois University in Macomb, Illinois, for double major in criminal justice and philosophy. And I did that, and then with that degree, I spent a little bit of time in Urbana, Illinois, as a patrol officer at the police department there. And then it was after that I initially joined the Air Force.
Okay. Wow. So you came in already with a lot of experience, from having working outside of the Air Force and everything like that.
Yeah, it was a bit of different experience coming in a little bit older, having done a few different things.
Right. So then you ended up, so you decide to join the Air Force, and did you have a job in mind that you wanted to have coming in?
Not particularly. I actually had entered on the electrical general aptitude area, not wanting to go into maintenance because I heard some horror stories, and I learned that there are hybrid categories and that aircraft electrical environmental systems is both. So I got notified at basic that's where I ended up.
Oh wow! So it is part of the maintenance world, but that is different than my apologies for my ignorance, but that's different than electronic warfare.
Correct. They would be avionics. It's kind of similar, but E&E is more like power wires and making sure things are turned on and off. whereas avionics is more like data wires, sort of like an Ethernet cord for like your internet and stuff like that. That's a oversimplification, but more or less that's the difference.
Okay. And then you say, I'm sorry, did you say what your degree was in as well?
Because I double majored in criminal, or Western Illinois University calls it law enforcement and justice administration, but it's essentially criminal justice. And then I double majored in philosophy with emphasis on pre-law.
Okay. So essentially you had been somewhat pursuing the legal field, right?
Yeah, so when I was in my undergrad, my junior year, I was actually looking at taking the LSAT and going in that direction, but for a lot of reasons, a lot of job market wasn't super great for law back then. I didn't really want to get that further into the student loans either, and so I have to go to give it a shot at the police officer career field and see how that went for me before I would later go into the law enforcement or back for the legal degree if that was what I wanted to do. I was actually planning on picking that up either part-time here, or if I decided to get out after this run on my enlistment, I was going to use my GI Bill to pursue it.
Okay. Awesome. Um, so, and again, just going back to your, I know I keep, we're going all over the place, but going back to the Air Force and your assignment. So, how did you end up at Whiteman Air Force Base? Is that a place that you wanted to go, or is that just what you had?
That's just where I was. I didn't know Whiteman Air Force Base existed when I got the assignment. I was notified when I was at Shepherd down in Texas for my initial tech school for E&E. And I got the notification. I had to Google where it was, and it's actually like 3 hours away from Quincy. So it's essentially the same place, like very, very similar culture and area, and everything was pretty much the same. So it was kind of like that double-edged sword of like, this isn't so bad. I'm close to home. I can visit for the holidays, but also like one of the reasons I joined was to travel. So that kind of took the wind out of my sails on that one.
That's right. So, just curious, what did you, if you remember, what did you pick for your assignments? Then were you trying to go overseas?
I was trying to go overseas. I wanted to, like a lot of people, I feel like I wanted to hit up like Japan or Europe primarily. And then stateside, I was trying to get out to, I don't know, I think I had like Texas and then some Western places, Colorado, California. E&E's pretty open. You can go pretty much any base. So I'm pretty spread out.
Okay. That's good. And then you get Wyman, and then you Google Wyman, and then you're like, oh, hang on a second.
Yeah, I was like, where is Knob Noster, Missouri? I Googled that, and the Casey's showed up because that's probably the biggest thing there. But
Right.
it was a good assignment.
Nice. Okay. So then you go to your job, you go to your base, and did you sign up for 4, 6?
I was initially signed up for 4.
Okay. So that's why maybe you were able to cross train a little bit sooner then.
Yeah, because you go in about like halfway through, or it's at the I think 3-year mark for 4 years or a little bit before, and then somewhere around your 5th year, I think, if you're a 6-year contract.
Okay. Now, quick question, because I think I'm really curious about this, because I don't think many people know. But when you joined the Air Force, did you know that there was a paralegal career field?
It had never occurred to me. No, I found out about the paralegal career field through Technical Sergeant Miller. She was I think she was a military justice in COIC when I was in maintenance at Whiteman. Her husband, the other technical sergeant, now Master Sergeant Miller, was my like tech sergeant. Then he later became my flight chief. So I kind of met her through like the squadron picnics and stuff like that. And she kind of caught word from her husband about me a little bit, and she recommended I look into cross training. I mentioned it to her husband, Mr. Sergeant Miller, that I was considering changing career fields.
Right. See that? So there you go. Shout out to Sergeant Miller. I think she's in sunny Florida now, enjoying the weather. We're still kind of cold up here. But that is, that's one thing that I continue to hear, is that a lot of people don't know that that the Air Force offers that career field. Like paralegal is an option, right? I think most people just automatically go to the maintenance, the mechanic, and other jobs, but it doesn't cross people's minds that paralegal is out there.
Yep. I'll probably get a lot of negative comments or stares on this one. I originally just assumed it was, I'd heard about it. I just originally just assumed it was like an admin slot that they just slotted admin troops into in and out of. I didn't realize it was its own thing until I kind of learned more and got into it. And now I'm very aware of the difference.
Right? I mean, yeah, but don't feel bad. Like that's how it started, right? That's how it all started, and it's been slowly developing into what we have today. So I mean, it's not a bad assumption. Um, and given other factors, I can definitely understand why you thought that. But yes, I think now that we're offering the opportunity to individuals, you know, before they join, so a guaranteed job. Hopefully, we can do a better job at advertising that, hey, this job is out there. Maybe people will come in specifically for that. So okay. All right, good. So then you decide that you actually want to go ahead and start cross training. Then what was the process like from what you remember?
I remember then a lot of initial confusion trying to navigate my person, go through all of that. I worked with Sergeant Miller. She put me in contact with, I believe, his senior master sergeant Schlenker. She retired that year, but she initially set it up. I went over and I think I had to interview first before I did like the 2 week kind of like internship / trial period to check out the career field and see how things were. So I worked that through my chain, and they kind of talked back and forth. And I went over and interviewed with Colonel Thompson, and then they gave me the okay, and I came over and hung out at the Whiteman legal office for 2 weeks. I was lucky that on the timing, I got to see a court martial, or it was a general court martial, so I got to sit on that and see all the action and stuff. So a lot of other times of the year, it kind of be hard to catch the full picture of what was going on, but I was fortunate on that timing that I got to see kind of the pretty close to the full spectrum of what people do in the day-to-day legal office life. And then we did the 2 weeks, and then at that point I was just putting it in through my purse and hoping and praying and waiting.
Right. And he went through. Quick question, and again, just for the retraining, and maybe this is some advice that we could provide members that are trying to cross train into being a paralegal. How much preparation do you think that you had to have, in order to present yourself as a good candidate for the paralegal field?
I think it's probably definitely good to set yourself up early. I'd kind of known for a while that I was looking at retraining as an option. I looked into it a little bit, and like checked out forums and stuff like that, and asked around and tried to figure out. The one pattern I kind of saw that I latched onto that I think might have been helpful was like showing a willingness and an aptitude for learning new things and reaching out. So I tried to go to every training that I could available in my current job and make sure like keep putting myself out there for different experiences. I think that helped out with the retrain. I think it helped me out more recently with the E-FLEP thing. I think that was one thing that they mentioned, that was just kind of that broadened experience and just diving headfirst into things. And that's definitely one thing that helps. You got to get the letters of recommendation, which is probably, I imagine, is a big step in the choices they make on who they have cross train over. So I had to work through my supervisor, my shirt, and my commander had to give me recommendations to get that through. So it's definitely good to start early and get involved. Do you hit your bases on your whole airman concept, on getting your training, getting your obviously your work stuff, and then making sure you're getting involved in the squadron as well on your with your volunteer work and stuff like that.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah. One thing that I've been seeing is for paralegal retraining as new candidates come in, not a lot of preparation, or knowing what or trying to kind of get to know, or the willingness to know about what the career field's all about. Um, but yeah, I think preparing ahead of time is paramount.
Yeah,
And any,
the
go ahead.
I was just saying, I think that like the 2 weeks of observing over the legal office was awesome. I've talked to like other friends of mine that came in like the same time but on 6-year contracts, so they like were a year behind me on the retraining. I even told like a lot of them other career fields that don't have like, for us it's like a formal requirement, right? We have you come and check it out before we sign you off, but a lot of career fields it's not, but they're willing to do it. So I definitely recommend anybody to try and observe their legal office and look into it a lot more before you make the jump.
Right. No, absolutely. And then you can, you can definitely ask, because paralegals will be upfront too in letting you know the good things and potentially the bad things about being a paralegal. Not every job is perfect, right? It has
Mhm.
definitely the good things and its bad things, and you have to be able to weigh it and before you jump in. What some people realize though after they jump in, I think, is that it's not what they thought it would be. So it just kind of to reflect on what else could you have done during those 10 days to figure out, to fully, you know, figure out and make a better determination or a better assessment on being a
Absolutely.
paralegal. Good. So any issues throughout the process that you remember?
Um, yeah, initially, so when I very first started, like the rumor around like the maintenance world over there was that we weren't allowed to retrain. And I'd heard that pretty consistently through most of my time as an airman. Because there's a memo that was floating out there. I'm not sure if it expired for a while. I think they might have put it back. There's a memo out there for 2 Alpha, the maintenance career fields, about retraining, but it was for people outside of their first term window. And basically, it was like a blanket ban on letters of exception to policy to cross train outside of your first term window. I think it kind of got like distorted somewhere out there somewhere, and it just became conventional wisdom that you couldn't cross train out of maintenance. And I didn't really take the answer like that. I went and talked to the career advisor at the time, and he told me no, that's not how it works. So I went ahead and plowed through anyway, and it ended up working out. And then the other main issue this year was they ran out of slots because I was looking at my first listing, and by the time I got everything together and put it in there, they'd ran out of slots. So I thought I'd missed my opportunity, but I got fortunate and things opened up. I think it was only like 2 or 3 weeks before my PAC class that they hit me up and let me know that I was accepted to retrain. So it's kind of a last minute thing to slip in there. I wasn't even initially on the roster when I showed up to class.
Oh wow. Wow, yeah.
Yeah, so I really slipped in there last minute. There's a couple of us in that case. So I don't know if we got approval for some extra slots at the last minute or people fell out or how that went down.
Huh. But that is good.
That's definitely another thing about the preparation. I would definitely tell people to look ahead of time when your window is and get everything ready as soon as possible. So on day one you can have it ready because it's a limited number of slots, and we have more slots than a lot of the jobs out there, but it's still a limited number, and there are a lot of people who want to move around.
Right. No, but that's a very good thing that you bring up, because sometimes people get discouraged. Like, oh, I missed the spot. There's nothing for me, and then kind of like it's over. But it's not. You never know. With the quotas and everything like that, what can happen. So just keep pressing. With the if someone is determined to cross train and this is what they want, just continue going through the process, and you never know what can happen. Okay. So, all right, yeah, just curious on the paralegal retraining. So definitely thank you for sharing your experience and your insight with that. But let's move on to the hot topic to this program, to E-FLEP. Um, Tell me how you found out about it, and you know, how did you know about the requirements and everything like that?
I found out about I'm pretty sure it was on Facebook. I want to say it was the paralegal training Facebook page
Okay.
that kind of popped up early COVID days. I want to say it was definitely on there. I think that was the first one I saw it on because I know it was on the I later saw it on the JAG recruiting page as well. So that popped up as one of the things, and then it kind of got dispersed through a couple of different programs later. But the initial was on the paralegal training page. I kind of looked at it through there, and then that was quite the process. It was quite a bit more than the initial retraining for sure.
So what was it like? What was different about it, and how much how much did you have to provide for that?
It was a lot. So the first big hurdle was the LSAT, which is probably like arguably the biggest hurdle. It's a lot to prep for. I found out, I want to say in July, you have to register for the LSAT a month or two in advance. So I had until June, or had until January to have everything done: the LSAT, AFOQT, all your letters of rec, writing sample, which I had to make a new writing sample because as I said, I graduated my undergrad before I got in, so it's been years ago. So none of that stuff's going to be a great sample at this point. So I had to make mine from scratch, which is definitely anyone looking to do that in the following years. I would definitely recommend looking into that, seeing if you early deciding if you've already got something on file somewhere that you like to use, if you need to make a new one, because that was a big hurdle. But the LSAT, I was studying 15, 20 hours a week for about 3 months before I took it.
Wow.
It was, yeah, it was a lot. I used Khan Academy. I don't know if you ever heard, they got a lot of free classes and stuff like that. And they had a LSAT prep test thing, which was pretty cool. I got to take I did a practice test every weekend through those like 3 or 4 months. Those are each about 3 hours straight through. So that was fun. Then LSAT's doing you take it from home now because of COVID. I don't know if they're still doing that. They called it the LSAT Flex. So I had to like set up my computer and download like this proctoring program and do some tests and stuff and set that up, and kind of like, our apartment's kind of small, living out here in Honolulu, not a lot of room. So I had to like kind of move everything around because there's rules about like what you can have in the room to make sure you're not cheating and stuff like that.
Right.
So I had to set up like a little mini office in my bedroom. So that was kind of crazy. And then I initially planned on taking it twice, which is fairly common. You take it and you live and you learn, and you go for the second one and see what your higher score is. So most schools just go off the higher one. They don't really, unless there's a big difference, there's not a whole lot of concern and difference in your different scores from what I've read and come to understand. But I was on a general court martial that changed venues. We had to move it all the way out to Joint Base Andrews.
Hmm.
So I missed my second date for my second LSAT, so I had to settle on that first score. So,
Oh wow.
yeah, that threw a wrench into things, but my first score was good enough, so it ended up being all right. And then AFOQT wasn't as bad. The two things they zero in on that is like your verbal reasoning, and then I forget the exact terminology, but basically your math score. Verbal reasoning, I didn't really need to study. It's pretty similar to like, once you study for the LSAT, you're good for the. I felt like I was pretty good for the AFOQT verbal stuff. It's like vocabulary and analogies and stuff like that. I definitely had to brush up on my math. There's a lot of like factoring and stuff like that. Like, math you don't do in a normal everyday life unless you have like your career is somehow math oriented. So I haven't done anything other than, balancing my bank account for the past decade. So I had to do a little catch up tutoring on that online. And then had to get a big stack of letters of recommendation, but that kind of just comes with the career. If you've been doing right by everybody and doing your stuff, those aren't too hard to come by. And then another big thing was the writing sample. Like I said, I had to make it from scratch because all of my writing from undergrad was ancient, and I honestly don't know if I even have any of it anymore.
Right.
So I actually worked with Captain Harlow and Captain Heald here, helped me out quite a bit. They're our local writing enthusiasts, so they gave me a task from one of our courts coming up. It's like an admissibility question on some evidence we were trying to get in. So I kind of did some legal research, kind of dusted off the training from PAC. Luckily, it hadn't been that long. Did some legal research and typed up a memo on like my theory of admissibility and how we would attempt to get into the court martial. Did that, and that ended up being my writing sample. That took quite a few edits, and I still owe Captain Harlow and Captain Heald a couple boxes of red pens, but we got through it together. And yeah, and then it got all that through, and then you apply to the schools. That's a bear in itself. Anyone looking at the program should just know ahead of time. The LSAC, the organization you apply through, they want their cut of the law school money. So it's like $200 for the LSAT. I think it was $150 to register with LSAC, which you need to apply to school, and then it's $45 a pop per application, and then the schools can charge on top of that. So anyone looking at the program next year, definitely get your savings going for that. That was kind of hard hit. Luckily, because of COVID, the schools waived their fees, so that helped out a little bit. Yeah, and then picking the schools was also a little bit difficult because, as we're all aware, the military likes to move us around, so you don't know where you're going to end up. So it's kind of hard to pick, like, based on normally, you know what I mean? You look at specialties and what kind of law you want to practice, which isn't necessarily like the worst way to go. But my concern was if I was like, all right, hey, I want to like, I'm super into claims or something like that. I get here and they're like, all right, you'll be a trial lawyer, and the next time it'll be ADC, and I'll never use it again, or like vice versa. If you go for like advocacy or like criminal justice, or you go for like a criminal focus, and like, hey, we're gonna have you go do environmental law.
Right.
So I ended up going with did a focus on legal writing and advocacy. I kind of leaned in more on the soft skills that'll be useful everywhere, and figure I'll fill up the knowledge end on the back end once I figure out where I'm going at the end of school. But yeah, that was more or less the gambit of things. Then you put it in late December, early January, and then it's the waiting game.
Right. Wow. So how did you end up with UNLV?
UNLV, I just was they've got law schools are super big on like their rank posturing and their rack and stacks. So once you know what you have in mind, like I said, I kind of leaned into legal writing and like advocacy as my focuses. So I thought those would be kind of the most flexible things I could go into. UNLV's rated pretty consistently rated as #1 in the country for writing program, legal writing. I knew that'd be pretty critical. And then they're also like 6, I think, and alternate dispute resolution, so like arbitration and stuff like that. That kind of marries up to advocacy, like talking in court and stuff like that. So just more, like I said, more of the soft skills I looked into, and just their overall program looked pretty good. They've got some good, like the clinics. They've got a big thing first year. You have to do community outreach, where they have like you do awareness projects and stuff like that in the community for people who can't afford representation, stuff like that. So they have like programs that you have to participate in to help people out and spread knowledge about just basic stuff like landlord tenant disputes and divorce, and like, you know, sort of like legal assistance that we do in the legal office here. It's sort of like that, but more of awareness aspect than advising and stuff like that. And then later in the career, you get into clinics and stuff and actually help out like hands on. But it all just kind of seemed to go up pretty well. And it was kind of the area of the country that my wife and I discussed that we were kind of into. Neither of us are big fans of the cold. We didn't want to go back to the Midwest just because we wanted something different, not to knock the Midwest. We were liked it there when we were there, but it's time to move on.
Right.
And so the cold kind of knocked us out of the North and the East Coast. So we were looking more towards the general Nevada, California, Arizona area.
Right. All right. No, that's pretty cool. That's a lot. That's a lot of information and a lot of stuff to get ready for, to get prepared for. Because
Yeah, I put a lot of hours into looking into all the schools and stuff, trying to figure out where to go.
right. Right. So how much preparation in total? Because I know you mentioned, when did you take the LSAT again? Like what month?
Let's see. I want to say it was early August, because the registration for the next one I wanted to take was due in September. Because I would remember I was all the way up until like the last. You have to register like a month or two in advance, and I was about to register for the second one, and then we had that change of venue on that court martial I was on, and I looked. I was like, man, there's no way I'm going to be able to study any further while I'm like TDY for like a month. We had like we had 30 something witnesses that I had to travel over. We had people coming from Korea and Germany and stuff during COVID. It was a nightmare. So I was just like, I'm not gonna be able to study anymore. So I just kind of had to scrap my second test. But yeah, so I think I took it. I think actually, now that I think about it, I think it would have been September.
The first one?
I found out about the program, I think July, and
Okay.
I registered right away because I remember it was about 3 months studying.
Right.
So I think it would have been late September.
Huh. So essentially, and then you said that you studied for like a month, 2 months, a month.
It was like 2 or 3 months. I was doing like 15, 20 hours a week.
So maybe you
It
were
was rough.
preparing like since May, maybe May.
It was June or July, because it was a quick turnaround. I might have got the date on the LSAT wrong. I know I found it like June or July, because I think that's when they first announced the program. It was rough. I'd get out of work and I would just go straight to my computer and study all night, and like get a little bit of dinner, and then I didn't do pretty much anything for that block of time other than work out a little bit after work, eat, and study quite a bit. And I took those tests every weekend.
Wow. Wow. So all that, you're doing ahead of time because the application again was due in this December.
That was, due first week of January.
First week of January is the application, but you're doing all this preparation already about 6 months ahead.
Yeah. It felt like a quick turnaround for everything you had to do. So anyone looking for next year, I would start looking now.
Right.
Especially for the LSAT.
Right. However, if for whatever reason you did not get picked up, then it would have been all right. So the LSAT, the AFOQT, and everything that you got, it's a lot to put into. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that,
Yeah, it's a big investment.
Right. How many people do they pick? Do you know? Is it just one person that they picked for the E-FLEP?
They told me there were 22 applicants in the end. They picked 4 of us. I was the only enlisted one, and they picked 3 officers.
Oh, okay. So it was FLEP, but you were the only E-FLEP.
Yeah, so they boarded us together. They didn't have like separate slots or anything. They didn't say like this many enlisted, this many officers. They just boarded us all together. So in theory, it could have been all enlisted or it could have been all officers. I don't think they cared or had a number in mind. It was more about what they wanted out of the candidates and who fit that category.
Okay, all right. So that's good to know then. I wasn't sure if they were separating the officer, just the FLEP, and then the E-FLEP separately.
Yeah, no, they board us all together. So I was the only one this year, but next year it could be all enlisted, depending on who we get in there.
Right. Right, because in the end, the only difference between selecting enlisted and officers is that you have to go to OTS.
Yeah, pretty much. They got the OTS, you do the FOQT, and then there's an interview. You got to do the Form 56. You go through. You have to do a squadron interview with your squadron commander. That's kind of the standard OTS route that you go. You kind of have to do that in conjunction because E-FLEP is kind of the marrying N-FLEP with a general normal sessions for OTS.
Okay. Interesting. So you were selected, which is awesome, and also any career field, right, can apply as far as enlisted.
Absolutely, yeah. Any career field we had, I know, because you come out and do some interviews. So I know we had, I think, 2 people interview out here with the attorneys here as part of their process, and they had one was from Intel, I think they told me, and I don't remember the other one, but we had 2 other people that weren't paralegals on the island here that also applied. So it's definitely open to all career fields.
Right. But it's awesome. It's really, really awesome that the first E-FLEP selected is a paralegal. That is super cool because you know what I mean. Like it validates somehow. You know what I'm like. We know these things. The only difference, the only thing that we haven't been able to do so far is litigate in court. Obviously, provide legal advice. But as far as everything else, we're capable of doing the same things that attorneys do.
Absolutely, and I on that note with litigating in court, anybody who's considering the jump, I definitely recommend if you've got some discharge boards coming up, seeing about jumping in on those. So I actually had the opportunity with Captain Heald here ushered me through, and I got to sit in an assistant reporter and kind of try that out and do a little bit. So that's definitely a good experience of anyone who's on the fence, because like we said, it's a big investment. You want to be sure. So if you jump in there and get on the discharge board, it's a very good mock trial in the closest form that we can kind of play at it. So it's definitely a good experience to try out if you're considering it.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. There you go. So, and it can only help you to say, hey, I've done this even in an administrative process, but I've done this. And that could help with the interview and preparing and making sure that your application is as strong as possible.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a good experience too. Just you get in your cases, and sometimes, especially the ones you get really into, it's kind of disappointing to sit back seat and have you trust your attorney to handle it. Like the discharge board, it's cool to actually get up there and you get to do I got to do an opening and do some questions and stuff like that for witnesses. So it's definitely fun to actually get into there and try it out yourself.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I've never done it myself. I never did it myself, but it has to be an amazing experience, and it gives you that the litigation piece that we never get to do in court, but you get that opportunity in a discharge court. Okay, So again, get selected. Our first paralegal is also the first, first paralegal selected for E-FLEP. And then, so now what happens next?
So I go to OTS in July, which unfortunately ends in September, and school starts late August.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'll get a little bit of a late start at school, but I talked to the dean at UNLV, and we kind of worked out how we're going to catch back up. Fortunately, so law school, especially like your first year, your score is all on your final test, so it's kind of flexible. So I'll be able to catch up, but we're working on the details on how the orders work and stuff to get cut to go to the Las Vegas area and get in there. I'm hoping I can get there in June. Give me some time to figure out where I'm going to live and set everything up, and then TDY from there to Maxwell and get OTS done and come back and catch up on school. But we'll see how it shakes out. It's the first run. We're trailblazing here, so we're trying to figure out exactly how it lays out and where do the orders come from and who controls me and where does all the money come from, stuff like that. So
Wow.
it's definitely a learning experience figuring it out.
Wow. So you essentially be 1 month behind.
Yeah, it'll be a couple weeks depending on how the PCS and stuff breaks down. So we'll see how that goes. But I talked to our attorneys here. I've been in touch with a couple students at the school there, and they've all agreed, and it's pretty it's doable. I'll be studying a lot. It'll be a rough couple months to catch up, make sure. Because the other thing is to get into like mock trials and like law review and a lot of the great experience like extracurriculars you can do like your second and third year are based on your performance your first year. So I really gotta nail it when I get there, because I definitely want to get into everything. It's like got a lot on my shoulders to make sure that like I do good. I got that concern. I gotta nail it. So next time when they're looking at the candidates and they see the enlisted people, they know that they're good options to consider, and maybe better sometimes.
That's right. Yeah. So no pressure there, Sergeant Fenton. You're only representing the entire Air Force enlisted corps.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. I've been definitely brushed it up trying to get ready for OTS. I don't need all the fresh officers judging the corps wrong.
That's right. No, but definitely, I'm sure that you'll do well. That you'll make us all proud, and maybe you will go ahead and once you graduate and once you are, back in the JAG Corps as an officer, maybe we'll do another podcast then, just to kind of go through the whole experience. That'd be a cool, another cool perspective.
For sure, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Okay. So wow, there's a lot going on. An amazing journey that expects you, that waits for you ahead. I'm really glad that I got an opportunity to talk to you about this and the opportunity to share this information with everyone, just to kind of so they know, how much preparation they're gonna have to do for this and what it's all required to be able to be successful and to be picked up for the program.
Absolutely. Yeah, and if anybody out there has questions or issues working through it, you can find me on roster. I'd be happy to help out. I've had a couple people reach out. I don't mind at all. So if anybody wants to, I can't give all the answers, obviously. There's going to be better people than that, but I can do my best for you.
That's right. Yeah, you can definitely provide the answers. Yeah, no, that's great. Well, again, thank you for agreeing to do this. I know we were kind of thinking about it. So we reached out to you, I think, before, as you were going through the entire process. I think you were going through the application still.
I think I turned it in at that point, but I hadn't heard anything. We were just kind of waiting. When I'm trying to remember when we first talked, it was originally about the retraining, right?
It was originally about retraining, and then you're like, "Hey, I'm doing E-FLEP as well. I'm applying for E-FLEP," and then we still wanted to talk to you about it, especially to get as you were going through the application process, or you had already turned it in. But then, we got caught up, and now we finally got the news that you were accepted. So I'm glad we did it after the fact. That way you could talk about the success story and share your experience with everyone.
For sure.
Awesome. Well, Sergeant Fenton, again, thank you so much for this. I wish you the best of luck, and I know that you're going to represent us all well. And we will see you. We'll see you again in the Jack.
Well, dude, thank you, sir. I'll see you around. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care.